Things seemed fine as I returned home to grab something I forgot, until I overheard my husband chatting in the living room. He was talking about how everything was going smoothly according to their plan. It shocked me to hear him and my mother-in-law talking about getting rid of me, their daughter-in-law. Despite living together peacefully until then, it was clear they harbored deep hatred towards me. Normally, I might have confronted them, but because of my profession as a police officer, I decided against it. That day marked the beginning of my struggle to expose their evil intentions. My name is Michelle Kimball. I've been married to Dave, who is 3 years older than me, for 3 years now. We met at a traffic safety class held at Dave's workplace back when I was working as a police officer in the traffic department. It was my first traffic safety class, and I was pretty nervous because I'm not great at speaking in front of people. Luckily, Dave helped me out, and we became friends afterward. He started a conversation to help calm my nerves, which I'll always remember. Since we got married, we haven't had any kids yet. I wanted one soon after our wedding, but Dave wasn't too keen on the idea. He kept saying we needed to save more money because raising a child is expensive, even though we both had stable jobs and were financially secure. He avoided talking about having kids, which bothered me a lot. And I wasn't the only one bothered by it. My mother-in-law, Judy, was always worried too. At first, she hoped for a grandchild, but as time went by, she seemed to blame me for not having one. She'd say things like, "Michelle, you're not getting any younger. You should hurry up and have a baby. If a woman can't have her husband's child, she's just like a maid." When I told Dave what Judy said, he'd get upset and defensive, saying things like, "Are you saying this is my fault? I'm tired from work, and you're just making it worse. If you really want a kid, why don't you try harder?" He'd also start criticizing my appearance whenever we talked about it. On top of everything, Dave seems to prefer the flashy fashion of younger girls, which doesn't really suit me as I'm approaching my 30s. I've explained to him many times that I can't dress too extravagantly because my job requires me to be ready for sudden calls. But he just doesn't seem to get it. He thinks a wife who doesn't prioritize her appearance is failing as a woman and tells me to reflect on myself before complaining to him. I regretted marrying him when I realized that the once kind-hearted Dave could have such a nasty attitude. 2 years after we got married, my work schedule changed, and we started spending less and less time together as our days off rarely matched. Even when we planned to do something together, Dave would casually bail on me for other plans, like going fishing with his coworkers. He'd apologize, but his smirk showed he didn't really mean it. It felt like he was always off having fun on his own, while I was left feeling disappointed and betrayed, even on days when I just wanted a quiet day at home. My mother-in-law has a habit of showing up unannounced, always ready with a comment. "Where's Dave?" she'd ask. "Oh, off fishing with some girl," I'd reply. Then she'd make some snide remark about him preferring other company over mine. I hate having to deal with her insensitivity, but I can't just brush her off and leave. So instead, I spend my weekends listening to her comments. "You two don't seem like you're going to have kids," she'd say, pushing her opinions on us. "You should be more proactive. You're the wife, right?" I try to explain that I'm doing my best, but Dave isn't exactly enthusiastic about it due to money concerns. But then she'd pry into my finances, asking how much I earn. I hesitated to tell her, but eventually gave her a slightly lower figure than the truth. She seemed disappointed and made a comparison to some rich person, insinuating that my salary wasn't enough for having a child. I wish she wouldn't compare me, a public servant, to someone wealthy. Something about my mother-in-law's behavior began to unsettle me, and it was just the beginning of a troubling turn of events. From that day on, she started openly harassing me. She began showing up at our house more frequently, sometimes almost half the days of the week. Once, I returned home from work to find her there, having let herself in with a spare key, and she was blatantly cooking dinner. She'd make snide comments about me prioritizing work over home, even though I'm not a housewife, and suggest that women without children have it easy. Her remarks made me feel sick, and there were times when she'd rudely wake me up after I'd worked a night shift, criticizing me for sleeping in. She'd imply that if I slept late due to my job, I wasn't fulfilling my duties as a wife, and it's no wonder men look for other women. Despite my protests, she forced me to eat breakfast. It was all becoming too much to bear. Gradually, everything I ate started to lose its flavor, sometimes even tasting bitter. This went on for over a month, and with the stress and lack of sleep, I became so fatigued that even eating at home resulted in a rush to the bathroom. Instead of showing concern, Dave made it clear that he was annoyed by my weary face. "You look so downcast all the time. It brings me down too. You've handed all the housework over to Mom. At least try to look cheerful," he'd say. My mother-in-law would come in and nitpick whenever I was too busy to do the housework, which Dave seemed to notice. But despite my attempts to communicate, Dave would just ignore me and watch TV. He wouldn't listen to me, but he'd laugh at trivial celebrity gossip on TV, which only added to my frustration. "Dave, you've stopped making eye contact and talking to me recently. You even started canceling plans with me on your days off. Are you having an affair?" I finally confronted him. His reaction was explosive. "An affair? What an accusation," he yelled back. "I have work obligations. It's easy for you to say without knowing the hardships. Or are you feeling this way because you're the one having an affair?" His face turned red with anger, leaving me speechless and shocked by his outburst. Moreover, Dave lashed out and smashed a vase that was on the table, scattering shards all the way to my feet. "That's way too much, even for you," I said, feeling scared of my husband for the first time. From then on, incidents like that kept happening, leaving me restless even when I was at home. One day, due to work circumstances, I had to be away from home for a few days. On the day of my business trip, I left the house but realized I had forgotten my important planner at the front door. I rushed back home to retrieve it, but I felt awkward about facing Dave again after a recent fight over his comment about my trip. When I returned home, I quietly opened the front door and saw Judy's shoes. Not wanting to encounter my mother-in-law, I gently picked up my planner from the shoe cabinet and was about to leave when I overheard their conversation. "We've got everything we need. Everything's going as planned. Shall we push Daisy soon?" "Yeah, but the effects are not showing up as expected. She's been rushing to the toilet after every meal. It should be soon, right?" I couldn't believe my ears at their chilling talk. What on earth were they planning? Quickly, I grabbed the voice recorder I always carry and started recording, unaware that they were being recorded. The two in the room were cheerfully discussing their outrageous plan. "Maybe we should increase the life insurance payout. That should be enough to pay off Mom's debt, right? That would help, and you wouldn't have to see her ugly face every day," one of them said. I was so shocked I caught my breath. I couldn't believe they were planning such things, even if they didn't like me. Furthermore, I heard them laughing disdainfully, saying even if we tell the cops, the traffic cop won't suspect a thing. Gradually, anger overwhelmed my sadness, and I vowed to take revenge on them. During the business trip, I spent time pondering how to get back at my husband. Perhaps due to my gloomy demeanor, my colleagues expressed their concern, and I ended up venting to them. That's when I heard an unexpected piece of information from one of them. Apparently, a little while ago, there was a call about a drunk causing a ruckus in a gentleman's club. When they rushed to the scene, the man causing the disturbance was none other than Dave. Dave's behavior at the club was shocking, especially since he was someone who attended our wedding, and they immediately recognized him. He claimed the woman he was with was his girlfriend and threatened anyone who touched her. He caused a scene by holding one of the female employees tightly, kicking tables, and causing a ruckus. It was clear that it wasn't just a drunken declaration. They were genuinely in a relationship. Suddenly, all of my husband's past actions made sense. Surprisingly, I didn't get much shock. Rather, I felt energized to thoroughly investigate my husband's infidelity. Watch out, I thought. I won't let this go as it is. A week later, my husband started speaking to me in a gentle tone, similar to when we first started dating. Suspicious of his sudden change, he presented me with a document. "Michelle, you always have such a dangerous job with the police, and that's amazing. I'm proud as a husband, but I can't help but worry." As I looked at the application form for life insurance that Dave handed me, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still planning to go through with their scheme. Despite my doubts, I wanted to believe in Dave one last time. "Do you really think I'm at risk of being targeted? Would you worry about me?" I asked him, looking straight into his eyes. "Please reconsider," I pleaded. But to my dismay, my husband nodded with a broad smile. "Of course. That's why you should sign this application form quickly," he insisted. I couldn't help but wonder if all he saw in me now was the life insurance payout he would get in exchange for my life. He truly seemed like a good-for-nothing man to the core. But strangely, thanks to him, I felt empowered to carry out my retribution without hesitation. Well, in this world, you never know who might come after you, he remarked. There are so many dangerous incidents these days. For example, having a family member with a foolish idea. His words sent a chill down my spine. Like planning to get rid of a nuisance wife to be with a young mistress, I added, seeing his discomfort as his eyes darted nervously around. He seemed to realize he'd been caught. Being instigated by a debt-ridden mother to send the daughter-in-law to the afterlife with a large life insurance policy, I continued, watching his expression change. Wait a minute, are you? He started. But I cut him off, playing the recording from the voice recorder. Out came my mother-in-law's conversation and crude laughter, grotesquely destroying my husband's face. How did you get this recording? He demanded, shocked. I happened to overhear it, I replied calmly. It was a good thing I was carrying a voice recorder. If I'd always been a traffic cop, I wouldn't carry one around. Huh? Aren't you still in the traffic department? Dave asked, seemingly surprised. I'm in the detective division now. I told you, didn't I? Well, I guess you weren't listening since you were too preoccupied with a certain woman, I retorted. I confronted my husband Dave with photos of his affair that he had hidden in his room. These were undeniable pieces of evidence I found while rummaging through our house when he wasn't around. What? I don't know anything about these photos. I don't even know this woman, Dave insisted. Oh, really? She seems to be a girl working in a high-end nightclub. You don't know her. The club where you got drunk and caused a scene, apparently shouting that she was your woman. How charming. How much do you even know? I confronted him. Cornered, Dave desperately began to make excuses, not caring about appearances anymore. It's all my mom's fault. After she heard about me dating the nightclub girl, she started saying that I should marry her instead of you, who earns less. She was the one who tempted me, he explained. Dave's words made sense to me. When my mother-in-law, Judy, heard about my salary and called it low, she must have been comparing it to Dave's mistress. According to the conversations I recorded with a voice recorder, Judy had a substantial amount of debt. It was foolish to think that they were planning to use my life insurance payout and the nightclub girl's income to pay off that debt. So you're saying the plan came from your mom? I asked, seeking clarification. Yes, so I'm not to blame, Dave replied. What are you talking about? The whole thing started because you had an affair in the first place. It's despicable to blame others. I'll never forgive you, I yelled, my anger boiling over. Suddenly, Dave let out an incomprehensible scream and grabbed my collar. Reacting quickly, I grabbed his hand and threw him onto the floor. I'm a police officer, Dave. I'm used to dealing with violent men like you. I can protect myself without life insurance, I asserted, standing strong in front of Dave, who was groaning in pain from hitting his back. With a firm hand, I took out my handcuffs. You're under arrest, I declared. Dave's eyes widened in disbelief. That's a joke, right? He stammered. Seeing his reaction, Dave suddenly became weak and started apologizing. I'm sorry, it was just a moment of weakness. Please forgive me, he pleaded. Save your excuses for the police station. I'll listen to them thoroughly when the time comes, I responded sternly. Eventually, Dave and Judy were imprisoned for their plot to make me an outcast. I divorced Dave and sued both him and his mistress for $20,000 in emotional damages. While they might be released soon as it was an attempted crime, Dave losing his job and having to pay the emotional damages along with Judy's debt means they will undoubtedly face a tough life ahead. Meanwhile, I'm thoroughly enjoying living alone for the first time in years. Having been forced to live a cramped life for so long, I decided to spread my wings for a while.